Most people don't fail with a loud, dramatic collapse. They fade away quietly. They wake up filled with ambitious plans and go to sleep carrying soft excuses. Not because they are inherently weak, but because somewhere along the way, they stopped respecting their own standards. Every new year promises a fresh start, a clean page, and a chance to evolve into a better version of yourself. Yet, millions reach the end of the year carrying the exact same quiet disappointment they felt at the beginning. The truth is uncomfortable. Time does not change you. Hope does not change you. Motivation does not change you. Only your standards do. Self-respect is not a fleeting emotion you wait to feel. It is an active daily practice. It is forged in the moments when you do what you said you would do, even when it is inconvenient, tedious, or entirely unseen. Conversely, self-respect slowly erodes whenever you repeatedly choose temporary comfort over true alignment with your values. You likely recognize this subtle weight in your chest when you postpone something important. That small inner voice you silence every time you say tomorrow instead of now. And that widening distance between who you currently are and who you know you could become. I know this cycle intimately. I have lived through the exhausting loop of planning, restarting, and quietly losing trust in my own word. Not failing spectacularly on a public stage, but failing privately. And the most painful part was never falling short of a goal. It was realizing that I no longer believed myself. When you break promises to yourself, something deep inside goes silent. Your inner authority dissolves. Decisions start to feel heavier, confidence feels borrowed rather than earned, and life begins to feel like a series of events happening to you rather than something you actively build. This audiobook is not here to offer cheap motivation. It is here to confront you gently, honestly, and directly. To remind you that respect is never granted by others. It is earned through consistency with yourself, through a quiet discipline that demands no applause. 2026 does not require you to become louder or undergo a frantic, dramatic reinvention. It simply asks you to become more aligned, more grounded, and brutally honest about the standards you live by. Becoming someone you respect does not demand perfection. It demands integrity. Choosing the harder right over the easier wrong, time and time again. As you listen, you won't hear promises of instant transformation. Instead, you will hear reminders of truths you already know. Standards you may have quietly lowered, and the steady strength that returns the moment you stop negotiating with yourself. This is an invitation, not a judgment. An invitation to rebuild self-trust, stop drifting, stop pretending comfort is peace, and start taking actions you can stand behind. If you've been feeling lost, exhausted, or disappointed in your trajectory, you are not broken. You are simply out of alignment, and alignment can be rebuilt, one decision at a time, starting right now. Chapter 1. The cost of living below your standards. There is a quiet, hidden cost to living below your standards. It doesn't announce itself with alarm bells, nor does it look like obvious failure. It looks like getting by day to day while slowly relinquishing respect for yourself. Most damage in life is not sudden. It happens gradually through small, unexamined decisions. You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow. You lower your expectations just enough to avoid immediate discomfort. Then one day, you look up and realize you've been compromising for so long that you no longer remember what your baseline standards used to be. Your standards are not your goals. They are not what you preach to others or claim you want. Your standards are what you accept from yourself when no one is watching. They are revealed in those quiet moments when you know the right path, yet choose the path of least resistance. They show up when you delay important work without a valid reason. And they live in the daily habits you tolerate despite knowing they make you feel weaker. This is where the erosion begins. The most dangerous gap in life is the space between what you know and what you execute. Knowledge itself is not power. Unacted knowledge quickly becomes self-betrayal. Each time you ignore your own standards, you teach your mind that your word carries no weight. And when your word stops carrying weight, self-respect evaporates. You don't lose motivation at random. You lose it when your effort no longer feels honest. When you have promised change too many times without following through, your mind simply stops believing you. It stops responding to inspiration because inspiration without execution has become a meaningless illusion. Living below your standards creates a subtle, persistent disappointment that never fully leaves. It follows you into your mornings, sits with you during moments of rest, and speaks loudest at night when distractions fade and honesty becomes unavoidable. Many people mistake this feeling for laziness or burnout, but it is neither. It is the mental exhaustion of carrying unkept promises. The internal weight of knowing you could do better while continuing to choose ease over alignment. Without standards, time loses its shape. Days blur together, and weeks pass without meaningful progress. You remain busy, but nothing feels fulfilling because nothing is being built on purpose. Standards give structure to time. They turn raw effort into direction. Without them, life becomes entirely reactive. This is why comparing yourself to others starts to hurt. Not because they are ahead, but because you recognize something familiar in their consistency. You see people with similar abilities moving forward, and it forces an uncomfortable question. What are they willing to do that I am continually avoiding? Often the answer is not superior talent or luck. It is simply their absolute refusal to negotiate with themselves. Living below your standards creates ongoing emotional friction between who you are and who you know you could be. When ignored, that tension transforms into chronic anxiety, irritability, or emotional numbness. To escape it, many turn to mindless distraction, endless scrolling, and overstimulation. A temporary comfort that lasts minutes but costs hours of self-respect. Over time, this internal dishonesty weakens your decision-making. When you don't trust yourself, every choice feels heavier than it should. You hesitate, overthink, and delay. Inaction reinforces doubt, and doubt reinforces inaction, until even simple choices feel overwhelming. Your identity suffers next, not the persona you project, but the self-image shaped by your repeated actions. You begin to view yourself as someone who doesn't follow through, and that self-image becomes a ceiling on your potential. But here is the truth that changes everything. The cost of living below your standards is not permanent, nor is it irreversible. Standards are not fixed personality traits. They are choices. They can be raised at any moment through radical self-honesty. Raising your standards does not mean demanding perfection. It means demanding integrity. It means closing the gap between intention and execution, one small decision at a time. Chapter 2. Self-respect is built in private. Self-respect is not something you announce to the world. It is something you demonstrate quietly, daily, without an audience. Most people believe respect comes from external achievement, recognition, and public applause. But the strongest, most enduring form of self-respect is built far away from the spotlight, in moments no one else will ever see. It is built when you wake up early and keep your word when no one is watching. It is built when you choose discipline over comfort despite there being no immediate reward. It is built when you act in alignment with your values, not because you feel inspired, but because you decided that this is who you are. What you practice in private dictates how steady you stand in public. Many people perform brilliantly under observation. They work harder, speak with confidence, and project discipline. But when the audience vanishes, their standards collapse. That collapse is costly because every private compromise weakens your internal authority. And without internal authority, external confidence is merely fragile theater. Self-respect grows in silence because silence eliminates performance. There is no image to protect and no one to impress. Only one simple question remains. Will I do the right thing when the only beneficiary is my own character? This is where true character is formed, not in times of sudden crisis, but in daily routines. Small private choices compound. Skipping a commitment once feels harmless, but repetition turns exception into identity. You internalize the message that your word is flexible and your standards are negotiable. Private discipline feels uncomfortable because it offers no instant validation, praise, or visible wins. Only quiet effort and patience. This is why so many avoid it. They are addicted to visible results and want proof before putting in the work. But self-respect works in reverse. The private work comes first, and the external proof arrives much later. There is a profound sense of calm that comes from simply doing what you said you would do. It isn't adrenaline or flash. It is quiet, grounded confidence. That confidence doesn't shout or demand reassurance because it knows where it stands. Think back to the moments when you felt genuinely strong. They rarely came from public praise. They came from follow-through, from finishing something difficult or choosing the harder right over the easier wrong. Your nervous system remembers those moments. Self-respect is a relationship with yourself built through reliability and consistency. When you show up for yourself repeatedly, your internal dialogue shifts. Doubt softens, decision-making becomes cleaner, and you stop asking, "Can I do this?" and start asking, "Is this aligned with who I am?" You do not need to overhaul your entire existence overnight. Choose 1 or 2 private commitments and honor them daily without debate, discussion, or negotiation. Every kept promise strengthens your foundation, while every broken one creates a crack. If you want to become someone you respect, start where it matters most, in private. Chapter 3. Keep the promises you make to yourself. Every broken promise leaves a psychological scar. You may try to dismiss it, but your subconscious records every breach. Over time, those small breaks accumulate into a profound loss of self-trust. Self-respect does not collapse in a single catastrophic moment. It erodes through repetition, through saying, "I'll do it tomorrow," too many times, and knowing what needs to be done while repeatedly choosing avoidance. The promises you make to yourself shape your identity far more than any promise you make to others, because no one else hears them, enforces them, or holds you accountable. When you break a promise to someone else, there are visible consequences: disappointment, conflict, or lost trust. But when you break a promise to yourself, the consequences are quiet and far more dangerous. Your mind learns a pattern. It learns that your words are negotiable, your intentions are optional, and delay is acceptable. Eventually, your internal system stops taking your plans seriously. You can write lists and set grand goals, but nothing moves because internally, you lack credibility. Your inner voice has lost its authority. Confidence is often misunderstood as positive self-talk, but real confidence is self-evidence. It comes from tangible proof, from knowing you will act when you say you will. You cannot think your way into confidence. You must behave your way into it. This is why small promises matter infinitely more than ambitious ones. Big promises feel inspiring initially, while small promises feel boring. But boring is where reliability is constructed. When you make a small commitment to yourself and follow through, your mind registers stability, safety, and predictability. You begin to trust yourself again. Most people make promises that rely heavily on fleeting motivation while underestimating natural resistance. They aim for perfection, collapse under pressure, and conclude that something is fundamentally wrong with them. Nothing is wrong with you. Your strategy is simply flawed. The goal is not peak intensity. The goal is unbreakable consistency. A promise kept at 60% effort is worth infinitely more than a grand plan abandoned at 100% intention. Because consistency compounds. Your mind doesn't care how impressive your plans sound. It only registers whether you followed through. Lowering the scale of your promises to ensure completion is not lowering your standards. It is protecting your integrity. Integrity is the alignment between what you say and what you do. When integrity returns, internal friction dissolves. You move with certainty, not because you feel fearless, but because you feel aligned. There is a steady, calm power in knowing you can rely on yourself. You become steady. Steady people do not chase external validation, overpromise, or panic under pressure. They trust their ability to execute because they have proven it to themselves. One kept promise at a time. Chapter 4. Discipline is not punishment. It's self-respect. Most people completely misunderstand discipline. They view it as restriction, pressure, and something cold, rigid, and joyless. Because of this framing, they resist it, associating discipline with suffering rather than strength. They believe discipline takes away their freedom. In reality, discipline gives your life back. Discipline is not punishment. It is protection. It is the structure that prevents you from drifting into a life you do not respect. When you lack discipline, every single action becomes a mental debate. You argue with yourself in the morning, negotiate with your impulses throughout the day, and exhaust your mental energy before you even begin the task. This constant inner negotiation is draining. Not because the work is inherently hard, but because uncertainty is exhausting. Discipline removes that cognitive weight. It replaces constant decision-making with clear, non-negotiable standards. You don't ask yourself whether you feel like showing up. You already decided long ago that you would. That single decision frees up mental energy instead of consuming it. Indiscipline traps you in reactivity, making your choices dependent on fleeting moods. If you feel motivated, you work. If you feel tired, you avoid. That is not freedom. That is emotional dependence. Discipline breaks that cycle, allowing you to operate independently of temporary feelings. Self-respect begins the moment your emotions stop calling the shots. Grounded people do not wait to feel ready. They act because action aligns with their standards. They rely on routines, systems, and clear boundaries rather than unpredictable willpower. Discipline does not mean performing flawlessly at all times. It means doing the important things consistently, even when energy is low and motivation is absent. Motivation fluctuates with sleep, stress, and circumstances. But discipline depends on identity. You act according to who you believe you are. Every disciplined action reinforces a vital internal message. I am someone who can be trusted. That realization changes everything. You stop feeling scattered and reactive, and start feeling anchored. Discipline establishes essential boundaries around your time, attention, and energy. It teaches you to tolerate short-term discomfort so you can permanently avoid long-term regret. Just as wise parents set boundaries to protect a child, discipline protects your future self from emotional impulses. There is a quiet dignity in disciplined behavior, the kind that allows you to look at yourself in the mirror without shame or excuses. Over time, this proof accumulates into a calm, grounded confidence that has nothing to prove to anyone else. Discipline simplifies life, turns chaos into order, and anchors you when life becomes unpredictable. Chapter 5. Cut what makes you feel weak. Personal strength is built as much by what you subtract from your life as by what you add. Most people focus entirely on doing more, adding new habits, routines, and targets, while ignoring the quiet drains that leach their energy every single day. You cannot build genuine self-respect while continuously engaging in habits that make you feel weak, guilty, or diminished afterward. Even if those habits seem harmless on the surface or are normalized by everyone around you. Weakness rarely looks dangerous initially. It usually disguises itself as comfort. The critical metric is not whether something feels good in the moment, but its emotional aftertaste. There are actions that leave you feeling clear, grounded, and focused. And there are actions that leave you feeling foggy, anxious, and disappointed. That aftertaste matters far more than the temporary pleasure. Most people know exactly which habits weaken them. They simply avoid naming them honestly because naming them creates responsibility, and responsibility demands action. Weakening habits look like late nights that ruin productive mornings, endless scrolling that replaces deep focus, toxic conversations that drain your vitality, or remaining in spaces that force you to play small. These habits don't destroy your life overnight. They quietly lower your baseline standards until mediocrity feels normal. Weakness is often environmental rather than personal. When your environment constantly tempts you toward distraction and ease, staying disciplined requires exhausting effort. This is why cutting drains matters more than adding habits. You don't need more rules. You need fewer leaks. There is immense relief in eliminating what weakens you. Relief from constant temptation, relief from internal conflict, and relief from endless self-negotiation. Cutting back does not mean becoming extreme. It means becoming intentional. It means identifying the behaviors that consistently drain your self-respect and making a firm decision to stop defending them. When you remove weakening habits, you retrain your nervous system. At first, it feels uncomfortable, boring, or exposed, because distraction was keeping you numb. But underneath that initial discomfort, your true strength returns. Your attention sharpens, your emotions stabilize, and your sense of agency grows. This also applies to relationships and self-talk. Distance yourself from environments and conversations that pull you backward or encourage excuse-making. Strong people do not lie to themselves. They call weakness what it is, and by naming it, they strip it of its power. Choose one habit you know is costing you self-respect and eliminate it deliberately. When you stop feeding what makes you weak, what makes you strong finally has room to grow. Chapter 6. Build a life. You don't need to escape. Most people do not actually want to run away from their lives. They want to escape how their lives feel. They reach for constant distraction, overconsumption, or numbing habits, not because they are inherently lazy, but because their days feel heavy, scattered, and misaligned. A life you constantly need to escape from is usually a life built without intention. When your days are reactive and disconnected from your core values, rest doesn't feel restorative. It feels like avoidance. And the more you avoid, the more trapped you feel. Mental exhaustion rarely comes from honest hard work. It comes from continuous internal conflict. Conflict between what you are doing and what you know you should be doing. Between how you live and how you want to live. Building a life you don't need to flee from starts with structural alignment. Alignment means your daily actions match your values closely enough that you no longer feel like you are betraying yourself. It requires a supportive structure which provides relief rather than restriction. Key foundations for a grounded life include restorative sleep, protecting your rest so your nervous system stays regulated and impulse control remains strong. Focused effort, protecting 1 to 2 hours of deep, undistracted work so your progress feels real and meaningful. Physical movement, giving mental stress an active physical outlet to clear tension. Quiet and silence, reducing information overload and constant stimulation so you can reconnect with yourself. Honest boundaries, protecting your energy from toxic inputs and relationships that drain you. When your daily structure supports your well-being, difficulty feels purposeful rather than chaotic. Purpose changes how effort feels. Effort aligned with values feels fulfilling, whereas effort without direction feels exhausting. You don't need to redesign your entire life at once. Make small, stabilizing adjustments. Earlier sleep, clearer work boundaries, regular movement, and reduced distraction. Stability builds the mental capacity to handle stress, think clearly, and act intentionally. When your life truly belongs to you, staying present stops feeling like an uphill battle. Chapter 7. Identity is earned daily. Identity is not something you passively discover through reflection or personality tests. It is built through daily behavior. You become who you repeatedly act like. Identity is the result of patterns, not intentions. It is shaped quietly through the choices you make when no one is watching and no one is forcing your hand. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you believe yourself to be. Small actions matter immensely because your mind is constantly observing your behavior and drawing conclusions about your character. It does not listen to what you claim to value. It watches what you actually execute when there is a cost involved. This is why identity cannot be faked for long. When your daily actions contradict the image you project, internal tension builds. To resolve that tension, you must either lower your standards or elevate your behavior. The former leads to stagnation. The latter leads to self-respect. Confidence is a byproduct of action, not a prerequisite. You act first, and true confidence follows. You show up consistently, and over time, consistency becomes an innate part of your self-image. Sustainable identity change occurs through modest, repeatable behaviors executed reliably, even on bad days. When an action aligns with your self-conception, internal debate vanishes. You no longer need constant motivation because your behavior reflects who you are. Identity dictates what you tolerate, what you accept, and what you walk away from. To change your life in 2026, stop asking who you want to be and start examining what your daily actions currently describe. Change the pattern, repeat the aligned action, and earn your self-respect daily. Chapter 8. The Standard. You refuse to break. Every meaningful transformation comes down to one decisive commitment: the choice to stop compromising with yourself. Most people don't fail because of a single terrible decision. They fail because they negotiate with themselves daily, allowing temporary exceptions to turn into permanent habits. Your life inevitably moves in the direction of the standards you refuse to break. A standard is fundamentally different from a goal. Goals are desired outcomes. Standards are non-negotiable rules for behavior. A goal says, "I want to be healthy." A standard says, "I do not miss workouts 2 days in a row." A goal says, "I want to be focused." A standard says, "I protect my first hour of the day from all distractions." Standards eliminate ambiguity and decision fatigue. They tell you exactly how to act when motivation vanishes and energy is low. When circumstances grow chaotic, you do not rise to your broad intentions. You fall to the level of your baseline standards. Keep your standards personal, clear, and firmly anchored to the person you are becoming. Choose one core standard to protect relentlessly, even when it is inconvenient, boring, or completely unseen. Holding that single line will do more for your life than 100 unkept resolutions. Conclusion. You have reached the end of this audiobook, but what truly matters now is not what you have heard. It is what you do next. Everything we have explored comes down to one fundamental truth. You do not become someone you respect through abstract ideas. You become someone you respect through repeated action. Self-respect is the direct result of living in alignment with your standards, especially when it is uncomfortable. You now understand how living below your standards quietly drains your confidence, how self-respect is constructed in private, how keeping small promises restores internal trust, how discipline serves as protection for your future self, how cutting personal drains creates space for true strength, how intentional living eliminates the constant urge to escape, how your identity is earned daily through simple consistency. None of this requires flawless perfection. It requires ongoing honesty. You will have days where you fall short. The test of self-respect is not whether you slip, but how quickly you return to your standards without drama or self-pity. The person you become in 2026 will be defined by what you tolerate, what you repeat, and what you refuse to negotiate. You don't need a frantic reinvention. You need one non-negotiable promise that you keep daily. Start small, but start seriously. Choose dignity over short-term ease and build a life grounded in quiet, permanent self-respect. Thank you for spending this time here, for listening with an open mind, and for being willing to confront the parts of yourself that need real alignment. take this momentum. Honor your standards in the ordinary moments and let your actions speak for themselves.